I'm Alana, this is Evan, welcome to Inside Gaming Med. Today we are reviewing Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which is the second game, if you didn't know that. You've played the first one and love it. I have played the first one, don't remember it that well, weirdly.
You should watch that preview video.
I should. That's a good call out. Like, speaking of which, I'm really bad at platformers. Terrible. Just, that genre is not for me. I still play them because I still love them, but I'm awful at them. But I would still very highly recommend this game. I think it is absolutely fantastic. But I mean, yeah, the platforming itself, or the gameplay in general, is really, really, really sharp. It is more forgiving than a platformer like Celeste. Just in general, you're not going to die as much as you do in Celeste. But it's not easy either. It's definitely still a really challenging game, and I did try on each different difficulty to see how punishing they were. Hard is very hard. It's tough, and even playing in easy, I still probably, like, if I'd finished the game in that mode, probably would have died, I don't know, 100 times or so.
Yeah, the first game I played through when it first came out, and they added difficulties in the definitive edition of Ori and the Blind Forest. And yeah, I played on hard, and it's basically like one touch and you're dead.
Yeah,
type of thing. So
it's brutal.
Imagine that's back.
Yes. Also, do want to mention off the bat, if you haven't played the first game, you can absolutely just jump into the second one, and it's not going to matter. I recommend playing the first one because I actually think the improvements in the Will of the Wisps are going to make it a little bit difficult for people to go back to the Blind Forest because it improves on the first game in such significant ways. But I mean, okay, let's jump into actually playing the thing. One of the things that I really love about it is that as you gain more and more platforming abilities, you just get faster and faster and faster. And there was one part where I didn't know where to go on the map, which is really well laid out, really well defined.
In Metroidvania games, there's always kind of a couple spots where you're like, wait, was I supposed to go back here? Or,
yeah, you got to loop back, and I was like, maybe I didn't realize that this ability works in this area because I wasn't paying attention to this blue thing that I can now latch onto. Like, there's a lot of puzzle work going on in your head. And while there is a fast travel system, basically I just enjoyed speeding through the platforming so much that I never even bothered with the fast travel because it's just, you start feeling like a wizard. There are basically these really long strings of platforming combos where you have to press all these different buttons in different orders because of the environmental tells of how you interact with certain things, and it just looks and feels so cool. It's really, really addictive to just swing yourself through these beautiful environments. And I guess because it is extremely Metroidvania, I would say it's one of my favorite Metroidvanias ever. You are slowly teased new abilities you're going to get. You'll get to a new area and be like, I don't know how to interact with that thing, but I'm seeing 5 of them, so I should probably leave this area.
Can you talk about some of that stuff, like the traversal, and specifically in the first Ori, it's a lot of double jump, it's a lot of air dash, there's like a wall climb. Is all that stuff back? Like in the preview, we talked about like the whip thing, or I think it's like a grappling hook.
Yes, all of that stuff is still back.
Okay.
The grappling hook, I think you get that's one of the later abilities that you get. It's still in the first act, but yes, all of that stuff is back, but it's all just a lot sharper and faster, I think. I would actually be very interested to see gameplay side by side to see how much faster it is, but they've just refined everything. They got really cool physics puzzles that I don't feel like I remember being in the first one, where you latch onto something that's spinning, and then you have to fling yourself up to the next spinning thing, and it just shoots you through environments. Again, so fast, so much fun.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's great.
Speaking of mechanics, could you talk about the combat a little bit? That's completely new, right?
Yeah, the combat is still pretty simple. You can assign different abilities to your face buttons for the purposes of the review, which, by the way, thank you to Microsoft for providing us with the code. They recommend playing on Xbox One X, so that's what I played on. And yeah, you assign things to X, Y, and B, and there's this really cool sword ability, there's a kind of ground pound ability, and there's an arrow. And I feel like even though they are really simple, it's really easy to aim with the arrow, none of that's complicated, I was jumping through using all of them at different times all the time. It would be very easy to just hit X and slash, but it doesn't feel like a button mash.
What does it compare to, like Devil May Cry in that way, or?
Actually, kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost like an easier Devil May Cry. You don't have a focus on combos when it comes to combat, where it does feel like there are combos in platforming, but it is really, really fast, and the enemy variety means that you do have to think about how you're approaching the environments when there's a combat encounter as well. There are some enemies you can only hurt from behind, for example, so you've got to figure out ways to jump off the walls to get behind them to hit them from behind.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's the one thing that they definitely mentioned that they were looking to improve on, I think, in early interviews they were doing. And then, yeah, the enemy types, are there any other examples that you have of creative enemies, or you have to kind of switch up your combat?
I mean, the bosses are all really, really different, really aggressive. All of them are just because Ori's so tiny, you know, he's this little spirit, and he's very, very very cute.
Unthreatening, right?
Yeah, which is surprising considering he kills a lot of creatures dying in his hands.
Just a whirlwind of death in that
sort
forest.
of a genocide. It's like, we need to talk about that later. But no, the bosses, each one of them, I think I pretty much the minute I would have seen them, because they also show up out of nowhere. They're like, "Hi, I'm here now. I'm a shit."
Oh, that's great.
I just died like very, very quickly. I'd be like, and I'm dead. So that's very much a like Zelda-ish puzzle. You're not using items like you are in Zelda, but similar to being like, how am I going to take out this guy? What is his weakness specifically? Especially because you're so tiny and they're so big and so mean. They don't around.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing I'm excited to see coming back. Blind Forest had a lot of Kuro moments with the big owl that's chasing you in the foreground and the background. And yeah, I can only imagine that boss fights are going to be more epic here.
They are. They're definitely similar, like not dramatically different. Chase sequences are also very similar, but I just think that the scale of them is larger and maybe they feel a little bit more impactful. Yeah, I do, like I said, I think it would be sort of hard to go back to the first game if you played the second one first, so don't do that. But I also do want to give a call out to the sort of RPG light mechanics. It's a very, again, simple upgrade system. And I keep saying the word simple in that this game is probably very accessible. It's really easy to just see what's happening and wrap your head around the controls. Nothing's like going to be overly complicated. That doesn't mean that it's not very, very well crafted though. So the upgrade system lets you you can get these things called shards, which basically, for one example, I could equip a shard that would let me take 10% more damage, which I don't want, but I would also do 10% more damage. There are some that are just direct advantages, like being able to triple jump instead of double jump in the air, but you have to pick which ones you want, and you can open up that menu at any point in time and swap them around.
That's wild how different they are, because usually in a system like that, and I think people have made this comparison, and it's probably fair to Hollow Knight's like badge system.
Yeah.
A little bit similar.
Very similar.
But here, it sounds like you're getting abilities that also like affect the mechanics of the game. Like a triple jump seems like quite a bit different than just like a stat change, right? Like a stat trade.
And that's not a thing that you just auto have equipped as well as the shards. You have to choose to have that one there. You can also, and I did use that because it was advantageous in some of the, I think they're called shrine runs, basically like speed run challenges. You have to get from one area to the other really quickly in terms of platforming. I disabled a sticky ability, which makes Ori stick to walls, which, is very handy in a lot of platforming, but when you're trying to get through something very, very quickly, you don't want to stick to a wall because the time it takes to detach from that wall takes a long time. So yeah, you are actually changing the way that Ori functions with those shards while you're playing through the game.
Is that, I don't want to get too off topic, but is that where they have like the like your friend's ghosts that also like run the shrines, and then you can see how fast they did?
Yes.
That's so dangerous. I'm just gonna sit there until I beat my like one friend.
Well, that's exactly what I did the whole time, but it's like some of them are way harder than I would have thought. It's like 25 seconds. I'm like, yeah, I think I could do that because it gives you that nice pan of like where you have to go exactly.
Sure.
And then I was like, cool, a minute. Like, it's not that easy. But like I said, there's a lot of opportunity there for you to swap those shards out. And I mean, that works for the whole game. And one thing that I really like about that is it makes it feel like your Ori is very much tailored to you and your playstyle. And swapping around based on what kind of environment you're in and also what enemy types you might be dealing with. And yeah, there is a ton of enemy variety. And some of the enemies are a core part of some of the platforming, and that you have to use enemies to platform, which I believe the first game did a little
bit, yeah.
But I think they sort of just evolved that system.
You mentioned earlier that there's fun physics puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that a little bit more?
I don't want to spoil any of that stuff because it's incredibly cool, but basically there are a lot more environmental puzzles, or at least I think they're larger in scale. It's like entire levels that focus on the same kind of environmental puzzle, again in a Zelda way. Instead of just being one little device where you pull a lever and then a thing drops or whatever. Yeah, there's stuff where, okay, to make it very basic, like moving a rock in a way that you'd be like, well, now I can climb on that rock, but you wouldn't think about what the rock would weigh and how that might interact with an environment.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's. Okay. I really don't want to spoil it because that stuff's very, very cool to discover for yourself. And I do feel like a lot of the different areas of the map, while they are really well connected, the world is so well connected, the level design is amazing. The areas do a really good job of feeling and looking distinct and also fading into each other really nicely.
Okay.
It's very good. But I did get stuck at one point for way longer than I would have liked because a particular mechanic just didn't explain how it worked. It is in the first game, and I know that I should have remembered that, and maybe that's why it wasn't explained that well. I'm sure not everyone will have this problem, but I kind of wanted to point that out in a way that's like, Ori doesn't really hold your hand that much. It tells you what an ability does one time and how to equip it one time, and then is like, figure it out. And even towards the end of the game, the start is very handholdy. It tells you exactly where to go. It'll show you pretty much exactly how to get there. Towards the end of the game, it's like, I don't know where you're supposed to go. You have to figure that out. Do you have the abilities to get to this area? Maybe that's it. And that is very, very, very exciting towards the end.
Oh, okay, so it's in a kind of a constructive way, not in a like, man, I'm really frustrated at like, maybe I'm gonna put this game down and not come back because I didn't figure it out.
Because the map does such a good job of showing you where you haven't been, I never found it frustrating.
Okay.
And it's also, once I get to those areas, I'm like, yeah, no, I probably still can't do this one. I don't have whatever that is. But it's also so fun to traverse through, and now you can fast travel that there's almost no downside. It might be frustrating for like younger players maybe, but I think for the most part I just found it really fun. But in terms of gameplay, other than that, the game does lag, and I did have some significant frame rate drops.
Hate to hear it.
Yeah, it's basically just when there are a lot of enemies on screen, which did happen to me when I was just revisiting an area for an item, like trying to get collectibles or whatever, and didn't care about killing everything in my way, so I'd often just try to run through everything and avoid absolutely everyone. The game didn't like me doing that.
Yeah, started slowing down, or it just gets chunky?
Both, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes it's freezing completely, so definitely some performance problems there. Hopefully they iron those out. Of course, this is a pre-release build technically that I've been playing, but it is a bummer to try and be platforming very quickly and have the game just like chug on you because you're moving too fast.
I think that's not something that's really, I don't remember, maybe earlier in the first game it was like that, but with that visual style and those animations, they have to move, smoothly for that effect to like really
outside
really
of that, they do. This game is absolutely beautiful. It is a lot more detailed than the first game. Even looking at like side by sides, you're like, I thought that game was beautiful. Oh my god, this one is insane. It's so pretty, and there are all these moments where I just stopped and would like look at how the lighting bounced off of something and just stare at it because it's absolutely stunning. I feel like that's no surprise to anyone.
Yeah, I think that's like the one thing we know we're coming back to this game for, but what I want to ask is, do the areas feel different? I feel like they tackled so much in that first game in terms of what a forest could be and look like.
Look, it's still definitely very foresty, but no, it does feel really different, I think.
Okay.
Again, there are different areas that feel very distinct to each other while still feeling that cohesive tone. And it doesn't just look like the first game. It looks like the first game on crack, kind of. Like, it's just so detailed, so well animated. Just mind-blowingly pretty. It might be the prettiest game I've ever played. I don't know. It's a bit hyperbolic. I'm very excited. But it is absolutely stunning. The opening 10 minutes-ish, maybe it's even less than that, is basically a Pixar movie. It's really, really sweet. It makes you care about what you're doing without using any words. It makes you care about Ori's friends and develops a family, and it introduces you to a very pretty, but also very scary world. Because it's not just Pixar fluff rainbows. Like, I feel like Ori maybe gets that impression from people who haven't played it before, but it is also kind of sinister, creepy, dark undertones. You know, this is a forest that's sort of poisoned, and there are a lot of big bad guys in there too.
So is this like Up Pixar or like Finding Nemo intro? Are you just bawling in the beginning of this?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's kind of like Up Pixar. It's pretty sad. Look, I didn't cry, but it's enough that you
of course.
I feel like if you had been in the room with me when I was playing any part of this game, really, you would have been like, what is wrong with you? Because I was just like, oh, look, oh, he got a feather and fixed his wing. Oh my god. Like, just the whole time, just, oh, it's so cute. Like, it's just extremely cute. And a lot of them are really interesting to talk to. I mean, one of the things that I really love about Breath of the Wild, sorry, can't help but make Zelda comparisons, is just some of the weird people that you run into, like, that just have very strange stories to tell you, or want you to do a weird task for them, and you learn like a little bit about how they exist or what town they're from or whatever. Ori does a really good job of doing that too with some of the side quests. It'll be like, someone's like, I need to impress my friends. Can you grab that thing for me? And then you try and figure out how that works with their whole ecosystem and social life. And it's just all very cute, unique, interesting, while also just being kind of scary because it's a dark game.
How much of that is in the game, actually? Because side quests and like characters that talk are completely new. So, well, not completely new, I guess. There's like one or two characters that talk in the first game, but this game, yeah.
Way more prevalent. Yeah. There's basically, I would say, a side quest for every single area that you go to. None of them are particularly involved from what I saw. Characters that you buy maps from. There are characters that are trying to help you fix the woods. There's this little society where you can like build a home. There is one system that made me think of like Assassin's Creed 2, where you're collecting these shards to rebuild this particular area. So it's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to like fix the water? Do you want to, I don't know, make the tree bigger? Like, you can basically give money to upgrade this particular area in the game, which isn't necessary. You absolutely don't have to do it.
That's absolutely how forests work too.
Totally. Yeah. Give cash, fix forest. Yeah. Thanks, big capitalism. But mostly it's just just a really nice touch, and again, a really good evolution of the first game. And yeah, the way that like that area centers around all of these other cool areas, like I feel like canonically the lore of it all makes sense too.
So one thing I have to ask is backtracking, right? In Metroidvanias, how much do you like this map? Like, is it a familiar map? Is it something you like going back through and finding those power-ups that you missed the first time? Or do you feel like, just like, man, I should have got that the first time? Or how do you divide your time on that?
I think the only thing I don't like about it is that sometimes I would forget why I couldn't go to a certain area. So yes, backtracking is super fun, especially as the platforming evolves, because you're getting more abilities and you're approaching things faster in new ways, so that is really cool. But there was a time when I was like, okay, can I go to any of these now? I'm like, what ability did I not have for that particular area? And then it takes you 10 minutes to get there, and I'm like, oh, I still don't have it. Oh, cool, I have to leave. And there's no real identifiable thing on the map that tells you what is in that area. So for example, really early on in the game, you can't interact with a lot of the water, so that will lock off certain areas from you. And I was like, don't know what's there. I don't know why I can't go there. Maybe I've got a new ability. It's just more water.
So
would have loved to have seen that.
Is your tip get good, beat the game with like no power-ups at all, and then go back? Is that...
You get the power-ups really quickly no matter what.
Okay.
And they're not hard to get, and that's one of my few complaints about this game, is that I feel like I wish the secrets were a little bit harder to get. Most of them I'm like, it's in this area, have this ability, let's do it, and it just takes you trying that room, for lack of a better phrase, a couple of times. It's not very hard, there's not that much mystery. But in terms of like how you want to approach completion, I mean, I played it in a way that I was like, I'm going to complete 100% of the map that I can at all times. I don't know that that's the right way to play it, but I found, the traverse was so much fun that I was really happy to revisit areas and keep going.
Cool.
That said, you get powerful really quickly. I almost feel like the driving force of this game is kind of a power fantasy, in that Ori is getting really strong, really fast, really nimble, and that happens at such a consistent rate that is what is really pushing you through the actual game, and it's very efficient at doing that. It's very fun, for lack of a better phrase.
You said it's not too hand-holdy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of that progression system, do they kind of like introducing you slowly to these things, or do they kind of just like throw something at you and then throw like a bunch of enemies or something, and then you kind of gotta figure it out?
It's actually really organic and doesn't feel that video gamey when they give you an ability. You get them either from a quest, but usually from like a shrine type thing. I think it varies, if I remember correctly. I feel like it's so organic that I can't even remember exactly how I got the abilities. I just sort of had them at some point. You're like, you have this now, enjoy yourself. And I did enjoy myself. But yeah, it doesn't do the thing of like giving you that ability and then giving you a room to test it. It's very much just, you have this now, let's see where it works or how it works. And like I said, I did get stuck because I didn't understand exactly how one ability worked at a certain point where, I believe it's called Bash, it is in the first game.
Yeah.
How do I even describe it?
It's
you stop time. Yep. Sort of.
Do you like
jump?
Yeah, it's almost like a parry in a fighting game or something, where if something's coming at you, you hit Y in the first game. I don't know what button it might be mapped to in the second, but you hit Y and it kind of freezes time, and you can pick the direction you want to like launch off or through that enemy. It's weird because the animation doesn't really show you like bouncing off an enemy, but you kind of like dart through them, right?
Just like, it's like you slingshot off of it.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, when you've chosen the direction, the opposite direction is what direction that item will get thrown into.
Right, yes.
So I had to use Bash as bombs to get through certain things, and didn't remember from the first game, and it did not tell me that you have to point Bash in a certain opposite direction to blow certain things up. So I was like, well, I must get this certain ability at a certain point that's purple that blows these things up. And it was like, no, I just had to use that ability correctly.
That is a little
That's
tricky.
My bad.
Yeah, I could see that not working out, because just recently, because working on the preview, like playing through, the first Ori, and the way they introduced that in the first game is like really organic. They show you like, after the ability, you see a spider or something that does that, like shows you that it can break. Yeah. And then later on in the game, it's introduced in a way that's kind of subtle. But if you come to this game expecting to do that,
maybe I missed it.
That's kind of tough.
But yeah. I feel like that is a conversation I've had with some of the other people reviewing it who are like, yeah, that took me a really long time too. So I know I'm not completely alone, but I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't hit most people at the same time. But abilities are introduced in a very organic way. It's not too video gamey. It doesn't stop time to teach you a new thing. You just have the thing and you have to figure it out yourself, which I really like. None of it's that difficult though.
I feel like we've been talking around maybe like 3 pillars of Ori games in general. I mean, the first one is kind of the striking visual elements. Another one would be mechanics, obviously feel very good and fluid, but of course, I think one thing that stands out the most is the music.
It's so good. It's all the time so good in a way that they say that a lot of the time if you don't hear a soundtrack, it's supposed to be very good, like if you're not really paying that much attention to it. But the sign of a very, 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 very good one is when you want to put the controller down and be like, damn. Which, to be fair, combat's so good or the gameplay's so good that I didn't do that much, but I did see that it went up on Spotify, the whole soundtrack, and I was like, I'm very happy about it. It is stunning, inspiring, creepy, isolating, triumphant. Like, it's just such a beautiful orchestral score that matches the way the game looks so perfectly that, like, every aspect of design is just 10 out of 10. Like, it's just so good, so well made, so polished. Just a lot of love in it, very obviously, I think. So props to Moon for that. You did a great job with Ori the game. And yeah, I mean, to get to my final thoughts, it's not totally dissimilar to the first game. It is more precise, more polished, prettier. It's definitely better than the first game, in my opinion at least. But yeah, people who have played the first Ori recently, I guess, yeah, visually you'll see the huge difference. It does feel sharper, but I don't think it's like a whole different thing. It's not a game changer. They just added a lot of really cool elements and refined the ones they already had. So it definitely still feels like a sequel, not a massive departure by any means though. I generally think it is absolutely incredible. But there are some areas that feel like they lack inspiration. Just the occasional room that like feels like it wasn't designed with the same amount of love as the others. But of course, when you're making a very big game, it's hard not to do that. There's just some bits that stand out as like, well, that was fine, where most of it is absolutely amazing. The combat is tough, the platforming is tough, but getting your Ori more and more powerful is a wonderful reward. And I definitely think pretty much everyone should play it. I don't say that a lot. Usually I'll be like, if you like this kind of game, you should play it. But again, I'm really bad at platformers, and I absolutely adore this game and could not put it down. So play Ori, Evan.
Yeah, I'm already there. I think I already had it mapped out as probably potentially one of the best games of the year, if not one of the best games on Xbox this year.
Well, definitely that. Yeah. R.I.P. But yeah, I actually wouldn't be surprised if it ends up in my top 5 games of the year, which I was, I've been anticipating this game for ages. I'm sure you have too.
Yeah, there's some of that, right?
It's somehow like just better than I expected. So play it. And thank you for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
So in preparation for what might be one of the best games on an Xbox One this year, I wanted to dive into what made the first Ori game so great. I want to catch you up on the narrative and take a look at all the cool new stuff to expect in Will of the Wisps. Now, fair warning, I'm sounding the spoiler horn, so if you're frantically trying to get through the first Ori or don't want to be spoiled about anything you might discover or unlock in the second one, then flee now and come back and